Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Back in the 70s at Stanford University, a researcher named Walter Mischel, I believe that's how you say his name, he started running this experiment with preschoolers. It was very simple. It was almost laughably simple. You probably have heard about it, but he would sit a four-year-old down in a room with a treat, usually a marshmallow. And he'd tell them they could have it right now, or if they waited 15 minutes, they could have two. Then Walter would leave the room. That was it. That was the entire setup. And then the researchers watched the kids from behind a two-way mirror. Some kids covered their eyes, some distracted themselves singing, some turned their chair away, some stared at the marshmallow like it was like a pot of gold. Some kids lasted only seconds, and some made it all the way to 15 minutes. And it was really kind of a neat thing. But the beauty of it wasn't what those kids did in the room that day. The beauty of it was what happened 10, 15 years later, because Walter Mischel followed these kids into adolescence and into adulthood. And what he found was the kids who waited, the kids who had delayed gratification, on average scored higher on SAT. They managed stress better, had better social outcomes. They were more talented. They had stronger will inside. That ability to say not yet served them later in life. And 50 years later, that study is still one of the most referenced examples of this truth. Your willingness to delay gratification is a predictor of your future results. Pretty simple. Your ability to say, you know what, not today, I'm willing to wait. And in other words, that marshmallow, it wasn't really a marshmallow, it was a mirror. It reflected the child's relationship with time, their desire for reward and self-control. And you know what? Networking is too. Networking is the ultimate, or delayed gratification is the ultimate networking skill, if you stop and think about it for a second. Very little about networking is immediate. Now, cold calling is immediate, advertising, having people call you, that's immediate, immediately serving clients. If you're out there and you're working for somebody, you get that paycheck every 2 weeks, it's kind of immediate gratification. But if you're self-employed or quasi-self-employed, commission only, or largely commissioned, you get it, right? You get it. I mean, there are times where, well, nothing's guaranteed. There are times where you do really well and times where you don't. And pretty much everybody I deal with in the AmSpirit Business Connections world is playing this delayed gratification game. And networking is a huge part of it. But just to say networking, there's lots of aspects to networking, and there are people who work for the government, right? And their jobs are pretty secure for the most part, and they're going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks or once a month, however the pay comes. Once used to be once a week, but they're going to get a paycheck, plain and simple. And so there's really not a lot of delayed gratification. Okay, I need to work and I need to get paid. Great, that's fine. And then it sort of moves along. And then when you get into the realm of the self-employed and the entrepreneur, getting paid is not necessarily guaranteed. And you're always doing things that may or may not pay off. They just may not pay off at all. That's a realtor lists a house and nobody buys the house, and the owner decides they're going to the listing agreement expires and the owner decides they're he or she they are going to list with another agent and it sells the next week. You know what? The original, the first listing agent's out. That's just the breaks of the game. It's just how it works. And so delayed gratification is kind of the ultimate networking skill, but you can take that to different heights, if you will. You can take that to different heights. So, for example, you can ask for a lead. You can ask for a referral. A good referral for me is this. Or you can employ a little bit of delayed gratification and ask for a strategic introduction instead. This is a great client for me, but you know what? I'd like to meet financial advisors. Not that I'm going to do business with a financial advisor, but a financial advisor runs in the circles of a lot of people that I know. So you can do that lots of things. Don't ask for a client, ask for a CPA, ask to meet a banker, ask to meet a business coach. Ask for the people who sees all the people you want to serve, who runs in the circles that you run in. That's delayed gratification in practice. It's essentially choosing 2 marshmallows tomorrow instead of 1 marshmallow right now. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's not if it were an easy thing to do, nobody would work for the government. Everybody would be self-employed. Everybody would have total dominion over their time and have a great upside with respect to their life. But it's not easy. So what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about this fundamental exercise in trusting the future, networking. Planting seeds today, you water your relationships tomorrow, and after enough seasons, the harvest, the orchard produces fruit, if you will. So here's some ideas to help you stay focused on building this future. First of all, remind yourself what matters, right? Delayed gratification is not about wanting, it's about building. Each call, each coffee, each introduction adds another brick to that foundation. So if what's the long game? Remind yourself, what's the long game? What are you trying to do? Yeah, I need clients in my accounting practice. Okay, great. I need clients today, but I need clients tomorrow too. So you have to continue to remind yourself, I'm not just getting clients to pay the electric bill this week, this month. I'm getting clients to build a whole clientele. I'm getting clients to, be able to have an office, to be able to have a staff. Remind yourself why it matters, why that delayed gratification matters. The second thing I tell people is be strategic, not necessarily be a Spartan. You don't have to live your entire life for tomorrow, right? So blend a little of your future focused activity with actions that create wins today. And in terms of AmSpirit Business Connections, where the members come together every week and people give their commercials, what I tell people is that ask for those strategic introductions, right? Don't ask for the client, ask to meet the CPA or ask to meet the banker. You don't have to do that every week. But if the chapter's meeting 4 times a month, sometimes 5, but generally 4 times a month, then just pick one of those meetings. Say, one of these meetings, I'm going to sit and wait for 2 marshmallows and not go grabbing for the 1. Don't have to do it all the time, but just every so often do it. The next thing to keep you focused on delayed gratification, trusting in the future, is track and celebrate the activity. People get so obsessed over the outcomes. They get so obsessed of the outcomes in the sales and things like that. And I get it. That's how you pay the bills. I understand, right? There needs to be an obsession because that's how you're being judged. That's how you're being paid. You might have somebody looking over your shoulder who's kind of questioning whatever. I understand that. So certainly the sales matter. But if you track the behaviors that get you there, the number of calls made, the introductions that you given, the notes you send, if you track those behaviors, you have to just trust. Again, You're trusting in the future. You have to trust that those things are going to lead somewhere. And if I'm going to go to 7 networking events this month. And each networking event, I'm going to meet 5 new people. And each of those 5 new people, I'm going to follow up and do X, write them a follow-up note. Or, with 2 of them each event, I'm going to create a coffee, get together for coffee. And track those activities. If you track those activities and follow through on those activities, the numbers will happen. And I've talked to a lot of business people out there who will tell you that it's the activities that matter. Then if you was talking to a financial advisor the other day, it's 2 years in, right? He says, I early on it's hard because you just want the sales and you haven't really built up time in the queue to have things happen to you. But he says, now I see it. I see it. If I have enough meetings and enough calls, good things come. Good things will happen. You just have to trust that process to make it happen. And part of trusting the process is just looking around at all the other people who are saying, yeah, that's what I did, right? That's, I engaged in this delayed gratification exercise called networking, and it worked for me, and it works. And it does work. It doesn't work perfectly. It doesn't work beautifully. It doesn't work exactly how you want it to work. If that were the case, we'd all be retired by the time we were 40. It doesn't work that way, but it works. The last advice I'll give you with respect to delayed gratification is surround yourself with what I'll call other delayers. We rise or fall with the level of our pack, the people we hang with. So build a circle of peers who are willing to play the long game and essentially cheer one another on. Essentially to be at that meeting when in AmSpirit world where you're standing up and saying, I really want to meet some strategic contacts. Yeah, I need clients, but I also want these strategic contacts. So today I'm going to talk about these strategic contacts and having those people say, yeah, great, that's awesome. I'm glad you did that. You had the courage to do it because I'm going to have the courage to do it next week, or I'm going to do it alongside of you. Surround yourself with those people who are there to cheer you on through the slow seasons, remind you, yeah, that's going to work out. That's going to work out. I'm doing the same thing. It's going to work out. What are the small things you're doing today that are going to create big referrals 90 days from now or a year from now that are going to create referrals when you're off on vacation, when you're at your kid's ball game or whatever it is? That's the notion of delayed gratification in networking. Stop grabbing for the single marshmallow. Take the time, take a deep breath, and wait to get 2 of them.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.